Welcome to the Data Democracy, presented by renowned O'Reilly author Ole Olesen-Bagneux, empowered by Xenia. Make your data accessible and discoverable by anyone, anywhere, at any time.
Hi everybody, I'm Ole Olesen-Bagneux, Chief Evangelist in Xenia and the author of the Enterprise Data Catalog published by O'Reilly. On the Data Democracy, I have conversations with pioneering data practitioners and data leaders about new trends in data and AI. Today's guest is Tom de Wolf. Tom is a senior architect and innovation lead at ACA Europe Group, and he hosts the Data Mesh Belgium Meetup and is generally very active in the Data Mesh community globally. Okay, my 3 takeaways from my conversation with Tom. First, Data Mesh is practical reality, and when we launch Data Mesh projects, we do not need to explain central concepts anymore. Second, in fact, as you will uncover in this conversation, the public sector in Europe pioneered data mesh architectures even prior to data mesh becoming a concept. And third, data product creators really need more simple, self-service platforms to create data products. Right now, it's a clunky experience, and we can and must do better in order for data mesh projects to really take off. Okay, these were my takeaways from my conversation with Tom, but enough of me talking. Let's hear what Tom has to say. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Ole.
It's really great to have you on here, Tom. For the listeners, will you care to explain where you're based and your background, what you've done?
Well, I'm based in Belgium, so one of the smaller European countries. To be exact, in the Flemish part of Belgium. I think my background, I've been working for almost 16 years for ACA Group, consultancy firm in Belgium. And before that, I did a PhD in computer science. It was about multi-agent systems, but that's not important for this session. So that's a bit... and my main background is actually software engineering and software architecture. Dove into the data world, I think about 3-4 years ago. So that's a bit my background.
Cool, great, thank you. Okay, so you're also one of the persons that made the transition from software engineering to data.
Yeah, you
right?
hear it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, but that's very fortunate. I think that's a great thing. So I guess you went into data when you discovered data mesh. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was really the trigger. It's about I had 3 years ago that I read the blogs, the book of Tamak, and it resonated a lot with my experience in domain-driven design and microservice architectures and all those principles of team topologies also that we were already using in our day-to-day jobs, and for which the data mesh paradigm obviously took its inspiration from. So that was my passion, and I can apply my passion on the data mesh side then also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you founded something called Data Mesh Belgium Meetup, or you co-founded it?
I founded it indeed in Belgium because we saw as a company that it was a real need to get people together to talk about it and to exchange ideas. And so we thought, okay, maybe start a meetup, see how it goes. And we're now the 2nd year in that story, and the 3rd one is planned for June. So, and we have about every time about 30-40 people that show up. So that's quite good.
Oh, great. Yeah, so I wanted to know more about the status of data mesh in Belgium. I mean, I also come from one of the smaller European countries, Denmark, where I live in just outside of Copenhagen, and so data mesh in Denmark, I'd say, was perhaps not the first country. I mean, Denmark wasn't the first country that picked up on data mesh in Europe. Now it's really taking off in Denmark. What's the status in Belgium? How was it? How did it start? Where are you now? How has the experience been for you?
Uh, in general, what's the status of data mesh in Belgium is quite a tough question. But well,
I guess you should know, Tom, if you
we,
arranged there.
we touched upon some things indeed. And well, in the beginning, it was also unclear: are people already busy with it, or companies thinking about it or not? Is it too early or not? And one thing, by starting that meetup, we got an insight in what's happening. And as a result from that, I was also, for example, invited on some roundtables locally with CIOs. I think it was about CIO Net was the organization that organized it. Um, and what was clear there is that already a lot of bigger companies within Belgium were thinking about it or had it on the roadmap somewhere. And that was a nice surprise, because that of course gives an idea that it's important. Um, and currently, we also see that when we come with clients and talk about their data management approach, that they're really thinking about it, or at least want to think about it, but don't really know how to start with it. So that's basically the status, I think. Um, Another nice thing in Belgium, or more specifically in Flanders, is that the government is also pushing towards exchanging data more and building ecosystems around data. Um, and when you talk about an ecosystem with multiple stakeholders that want to exchange data or data products, yeah, then that also nicely aligns with a data mesh approach. So I think that's a bit the status of data mesh in Belgium.
Oh, that makes me curious. So, did the government, at least for the Flemish part, encourage this kind of architecture after discovering data mesh, or was that something that was like going on independently of the data mesh movement?
Independently. The push to exchange the data and not work on their own islands and do that across organizations is already a longer time that the government is pushing that. But of course, when we got involved in the data mesh project we did for the cultural sector, which was also an assignment from the government, and we read the business case and having an ecosystem of exchanging data. Yeah, if you have to architect a solution for that or an approach for that, then data mesh resonates a lot. There's almost one-on-one a solution for that challenge. So how we at least think that both are resonating a lot with each other.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's very very similar to what happened in Denmark. The public sector also encouraged this idea of using data across all the various agencies and ministries of the government here in Denmark. And I think so. Denmark is a very very digitized country, one of the most digitized countries in Europe, and that definitely has advantages and disadvantages. Because you are still talking about public sector technology, right?
Mm.
So there's a lot of mainframe management, COBOL still going on. Nevertheless, I find the visions and ideas pretty great. So that definitely resonates with the reality here in Denmark.
Yeah, it also gives a nice buzz around it and to drive it and try to solve the problem and exchange
Mhm.
data.
Yeah, I also think that it testifies to the fact that data mesh is really like the book data mesh is something that expresses ideas that were already circulating, right? It's the language that's new. It's the totality of the vision that's new in the book, or was new in the book, uh, more than the core principles themselves, right? That is something that is
Yeah, for
independent.
me, it provided a concrete mental model to think about and reason about how to solve these challenges and how to support an ecosystem of stakeholders that want to exchange data, because that's a whole other scale than a typical data management situation, I think.
Yeah, did you think a lot about data management prior to the data mesh movement, or did you just try to avoid it? I mean, I guess you had had some experiences collaborating with data management people, data warehouse people, I don't know, data lake administrators, stuff like that.
Yeah, for that, that what you described there, you could say I was on the other side, uh, and that's exactly the maybe also the problematic situation that Samak describes, of having two sides and some kind of fence between both. I mean, the application side and data side. And prior to diving into data mesh, my experience was indeed also more okay. They need my data, and I'll have to dump my database towards them.
Hmm.
And then already that gave alarm bells because the database is my internal model. I don't want to share that as an API,
Hmm.
but that was the easiest way and seemingly the only way to share data. Um, and so diving into data mesh and having a view on how that can be solved, of course, also enables to tackle that issue and to try to avoid the need to do that. And having the fact that you have source aligned data products that you also own as an application developer really allows that you can keep that internal model internal and just focus on what or make the output ports or the APIs really explicit towards the data use cases.
Hmm. Hmm. Definitely. The next question, and I guess there are a lot of angles to this, but I would be curious to know, like, your view on data products. What's an ideal data product to you?
Well, I think what we see often with clients is that the definition of a data product is the first thing to tackle
Hmm.
because we did that a few times to not do that and start discussing with people, and you're just talking next to each other.
Hmm.
So and sometimes it's easy to um, first define what it's not
Yeah.
before you're going to define what it is. um,
Yeah.
and well, a few examples there, and we take I take a quite a strict definition to what the data product is in the sense that for example, a dashboard or a report is for me not a data product, and also an AI model in itself is not a data product.
Yeah.
I, I use the term data product mainly for that, almost architectural component that facilitates reuse of data on itself and
Mm.
make that valuable. Just depicting that already gives a lot of people another viewpoint because I think a lot of companies use also consider data dashboards and reports as data products. Yeah, then a lot of different things are data products, and that makes it difficult to define it or at least also implement it into a platform, so to say.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so that's one thing. And on the other hand, um, the multimodal part of data products is also important. I think the fact that you have the same model, for example, of your customer data that you expose in not only a table but also maybe in JSON files on some kind of cloud storage or on a Kafka topic or on other output ports.
Hmm.
And also that distinction between a data product has multiple output ports. That's also something that's sometimes an how do you say that uh, aha moment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And ideally, I think the data platform itself should really make that data product concrete and in the sense that it should have an option to really bring together that code, that data, that metadata, and also somehow the infrastructure that's provisioned for a data product. Um, and but that's something that existing tools don't have yet,
Hmm.
or not a lot of them. So that's a challenge where platform engineering comes in. Um, And from a non-technical perspective, I think a data product should have a clear functional focus. So that it's, for example, there's a data product about customer data, and there's a data product about transactions in a banking situation, but that you're not going to split in 5 data products about customers if it's from the same source system and has the same definition.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of
So,
angles to that question.
oh yeah, definitely. And when you answer, was thinking about some of the discussions I'm sure you've had with clients, particularly about output ports, right? I am guessing that not all clients would agree that it would have like multiple output ports for a data product. Some would say this is the only one way, right?
But curious, why would you think they would have difficulty with that?
I'm just saying, at least to my experience, I've seen so many different interpretations of what a data product is and what a data mesh is that, I mean, I've seen people saying a data mart is a data product, right? So you get a lot of different viewpoints on what a data product is, quite simply.
And what I found that works in those cases is to really dive in and start building up. Okay, you have the data. It's, for example, in a table, but you also want the metadata. So only the table and the storage is not the data product. You also have to have that metadata. Where does that live? Okay, we for example put that in a code repository if that's an artifact that you consider as part of a data product. Um, but then, of course, you also have to have compute to do the transformation. So that part that does the compute and transformation for the data product is also part of the data product. And when you build that up, then it often gets clear to a lot of people, okay, only considering my data mart as or my table as a data product is too narrow.
Hmm.
It's a bit broader than that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
No, but that I agree in, Tom. I
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah. But then I don't feel the tension anymore to open up and see that differently, sort of say.
but that's great. So is that a general conclusion about sort of the status of data mesh in Belgium? That people are not like at the level of understanding that would require them to consider data products as some kind of holistic solution containing all the elements you just described.
Yeah, yeah, and indeed a holistic view, an holistic component that combines things from different places, but then having a platform that really shows that holistic view as one as a component that you can own and that you can share with other people. It's a view on it, but it makes it at least in my head the most concrete view to realize a data mesh, to connect data products, to discover them, to enable it, and to align also with the vision that was described in Zamak's book.
How can we increase self-service for data product producers? It's a long question, but can you shed some light on that one, Tom?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe one step back in that, what we also see is that when people are talking about a data experience, that a lot of focus, and that's important too, but a lot of focus is put on the consuming side,
Hmm.
uh, and and that you have your data marketplace and that the data products are visible in it, and that's essential to have it. But what's then often overlooked also is that there's also that producing side, and the people that have to own the data products, and owning the data products really means creating them, implementing them, maintaining them. Yeah, having tools and a platform available for that. And what you then see is that if you look at the current tools, data engineering tools, that uh, for a certain target audience that's in the domain teams and so on, that those tools are often quite complex to use. So the having an experience at the direct technology and infrastructure level is just too much to take in your mind and to be able to do that easily. So how to increase the self-service for a data producer is finding a way to elevate that experience, to raise that level of abstraction. Um, and yeah, the abstraction to use is the data product with its output ports, so that the experience is no longer at the level of I create a database in there and I create a Spark job in another system, but that you specify I want to create a data product that the platform takes over, goes and provision all the things that you need for that, and provides you also a development environment where you can start writing the transformation code that you need to write, for example. So it's really thinking about what's the ideal data product developer journey and experience, doing the user research also for that, because that's not the same in every company. And then target your platform to provide that experience, to integrate all the tooling underneath, and yeah, to lower the cognitive load by raising that level of abstraction.
Yeah, that sounds great, and I think that is the big, big elephant in the room here, right? Because it's not super difficult to find data consumers. A lot of people wants to consume data, right? It's pretty complicated to find data producers or data providers that are keen on actually preparing data products, because that is kind of a hassle, and it's doing something for other people than yourself. So it's
Mhm.
this collective. I mean, it is basically
Yeah,
you're
it is.
doing something that will have no benefit for yourself, but for others. Um, so I have found personally that that is the big. It's just a big elephant in the room that you have to, in order for a mesh to grow, you have to find these producers and consumers of data products and unite them, and that is a difficult task. And one of the most difficult ones in that entire process is exactly the responsibility of the data providers to have a smooth experience creating data products. It is not a smooth experience in many technologies. We have our own ideas about that in Senia, but it's
Mhm.
definitely not about explaining our product on this podcast. But yeah, that is a very, very big challenge. Tom, I just wanna know. I'm curious. What are your future plans? How do you see data mesh in the future in Belgium, and are you a part of that?
Will be a part of that, because, as I said in the beginning, it's a bit of where I found my passion for the experience I have to apply it. Um, and I think really applying that platform engineering approach towards the data mesh platform, that's something I want to specialize in, and really also solve that experience part for those producers that you mentioned earlier. Well, curious to get to know new and other clients also, next to the ones we have now, and to see other sectors where that can help, and very curious where the data ecosystem uh, boost that this paradigm could give will take us.
Yeah, well, that sounds really interesting, and I'll be following you online. What's your primary way of communicating? Is that what everyone else uses?
Well, primarily it's LinkedIn. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I would recommend that one. So if anyone wants to bump up or connect, please do.
great, Tom. It was great to have you on. Thank you for coming, and also for all the listeners out there. I'm very happy that you followed or listened to this episode. We have increasing amounts of listeners, and I'm very, very thankful for that. So please do recommend the podcast to even more listeners if you feel like it. And Tom, once again, it was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.